Hi everyone, I'm Ashlei Williams with The Wholesaler magazine and PHC News magazine. I'm once again at my alma mater, Northwestern University, and I'm here to speak with Dr. Donald McNeeley. In addition to being a professor here at the School of Engineering, he is a well-known executive in the PVF industry. He is the CEO of Chicago Tube and Iron, and he's one of our very own columnists. In this episode of the McNeeley View, I'm going to chat with him about a subject that I think is appropriate being on a college campus bustling with innovation, and I think that is entrepreneurship. So I'd like to hear from you, Dr. McNeeley, what role you think entrepreneurship plays in manufacturing, engineering, and related trade industries. So to start, I'm curious to know, when you entered the industry, what kind of entrepreneurial ideas were out there? Were there any people that you found fascinating when you started?
So first of all, welcome back to campus. It's always good to have you back here, and we're glad to have you slide over from the Medill School of Journalism into the McCormick School of Engineering. So welcome to you. It's been an interesting journey through our industry, and I'd like to talk about a couple of things. First of all, everybody wants to be an entrepreneur because, after all, that's where the big bucks are. And there's a couple of articles or a body of research that's beginning to emerge that talks about the downside of entrepreneurs. First of all, 85% of all entrepreneurial launches do fail, and the majority of those fail in the first 18 months. So people leave corporate America because they're fed up. They want to be their own entrepreneur. But the first time you pick up the phone and call the IT department, you know who's on the other end of the phone? Yourself. When you call ops, you're on the other end of the phone. When you call the engineering department, all of a sudden your resources evaporate. In the proper structure of an organization, it really is a team environment if it's a successful organization, so you don't realize that those resources are so readily available and so deep and so rich. And when somebody launches an entrepreneurial venture, most of those resources evaporate overnight, notwithstanding the fact that you're going to have a capital infusion somewhere. So what I want to do is put a twist on your word of entrepreneur, and entrepreneurship within a corporate environment is called entrepreneurship. So you really are allowed to pursue your entrepreneurial ventures with the safety net of that corporate along with the resources. So I think entrepreneurship's played a great role in the PV&F industry. To your specific question, I was in a management training program back in the 70s, and it wasn't a very formal management training program, but if you did some simple math, we were going to take over about the time that myself and many other guys were 40. And because of a illness by our CEO, who was the first reported case of a new disease in the state of Illinois called Alzheimer's, it forced his premature retirement and his premature death. So we were forced into a situation of taking over a very vibrant organization in our late 20s and early 30s. So before that chairman of the board, that CEO, lost his faculties, he was wise enough to bring in a blue ribbon board of directors. And he brought in people like John Mack, the former CEO of Inland Steel and Ryerson. He brought in Bob Lauterbach, who was the former chairman of the board of Wheeling Pittsburgh Steel that manufactured pipe, who later went on to become the president of Westminster College. He brought in John Stetson, former Secretary of the Air Force under the Carter administration. He brought in Jim Ashley, managing partner of McDermott, Will & Emery here in Chicago. Brought in later years Jack Malik, who was the president and CEO of Great Western Steel. Fred Axley, who followed Jim Ashley as one of the senior partners at McDermott, Will & Emery. These were my mentors, and these were the people that fostered the entrepreneurship within our company.
And I would venture to say that McCormick Engineering School values you as a professor because you're not just in the classroom. You're out there doing the work. You're a businessman. So I'm curious to know what kind of innovative ideas or entrepreneurial pursuits or thoughts did you have or have you had in your career?
So one of the things that we talk about in the classroom is it's not change, but the velocity of that change. Now, change can be assimilated by a society if it happens over time and it happens slowly. But change is occurring at the speed of thought these days, as Bill Gates says. So the people or the leaders within society that can assimilate change at that accelerated pace become fewer and further between. So what I enjoy about the McCormick School of Engineering, what I enjoy about Northwestern University, some of those brighter minds that are able to navigate that change, I can immerse myself with every week in a classroom. And I've also surrounded myself with like-minded colleagues at the steel company at Chicago Tube and Iron. So in those two environments, it certainly keeps me on my toes, keeps me moving, keeps me current, because if I don't stay current, they're going to be a step ahead of me, and that's going to be embarrassing. The second part is Northwestern does a great job of putting businessmen that are degree terminated for accreditation. Certain percent of your faculty must be full-time. Certain percent of your faculty must be degree terminated, whether that's a master's or a PhD in your respective field. So especially at the graduate school, Northwestern has found this wonderful ability to maintain the highest level of accreditation while putting people that make a payroll in front of our graduate students. And I think that gives instant credibility as well as the opportunity for us to bring real life experiences. But as you know, at Northwestern, every 24 months, we attract about $1.2 billion in research grants, and our full-time professors do a much better job at research than we do. You know, those of us in business want to throw more money at a problem and get it fixed and get it done, and that doesn't necessarily bode well for research. So at Northwestern, we found a great mix of full-time professors that are really doing a great job with our research, and part-time adjunct or clinical professors that are non-tenure track that bring an instant credibility to the classroom.
And I would say among my peers and kind of in the digital realm that I experiment with, being a startup is the cool thing to do.
Yep.
Do you think there's a place for that in manufacturing and engineering?
Absolutely. In bulk distribution, the big have gotten much bigger, and their market strategy is to leverage an economy of scale, and they are typically a low-cost producer. Tonight you're going to hang around, talk to any of my students and ask if they've maybe heard that in the last few weeks. But there's been tremendous consolidation that has taken place in our industry. In terms of bulk distribution, the advantage falls to those big players. However, there is a significant universe of smaller players, mid-sized players, niche players that serve a very real purpose in our industry, and often it's innovation. Often that's the environment that's a little less structured that allows that entrepreneurial spirit to prevail. So there's always going to be a role for that entrepreneurial-minded person in our industry.
And just to close, I'm interested in looking to the future. What do you think 5-10 years from now, this same conversation we're having, do you think it would be different? Do you think it's the same?
I think it's going to be different, you know, because right now it'd be easy to tell you the same, but just faster. But there are black swans out there. A black swan is an event that affects our society or economy that was not anticipated, but upon retrospection, should have been anticipated. There are more uncertainties ahead. Also, the engineering universe, the engineering field has brought us tremendous productivity. And productivity can cut both ways. In other words, you've seen me write, can a nation become too productive for its own good? I'm worried about this stubbornly high unemployment rate because that has profound implications for our economy going forward. So 10 years from now, I think we'll be addressing more of a global environment. We'll look at alternative materials. Right now, you and I used to talk about steel all the time, and really it's metals. You look at the #1 selling vehicle in the United States is the Ford 150 pickup truck. Next year, it'll be 700 pounds lighter because they're converting it from steel to aluminum. Maybe they'll convert it from aluminum to a composite or a material unknown to mankind today. So things are going to be a lot different in 10 years. The other interesting thing, if I may, a social editorial, if you will, right now they say in our biochem or our biotech departments that 1 out of every 3 babies born today will live to be 100. That is wonderful that we're going to enjoy such a great life. How do we afford it? How do we pay for it? That too has profound financial and economic implications. So 10 years from now is going to be a much different landscape. Some of it appeals to me, I'm excited about. I'm happy, hopefully mathematically I'll still be around. There's every reason to believe I will be. On the other hand, it scares the heck out of me. So stay tuned, as they say.
Well, thank you again for taking the time to speak with me. For our viewers at home, if you would like to see more, you can visit us at thewholesaler.com or phcnews.com.